Welcome to our tutorial on how to move Sage BusinessWorks to a new server. This tutorial will show you how to back up your existing data on your old server and then how to install Sage BusinessWorks on a new server. We will also show you how to uninstall a client and then run the installation pointing to the new server. To view our tutorial on how to download the product, see the knowledge base article titled How to Download Sage BusinessWorks Accounting. In this tutorial, we are going to cover some tips before upgrading, a live demonstration of how to back up existing data on the old server, a demonstration on how to install and restore the data on the new server, and then a demonstration of how to uninstall and install the client, followed by a few slides on some common issues you may run into when moving to a new server. Some tips before moving Sage BusinessWorks. You can access the download on the new server at www.sagekb.com. A login is required to download the product. If you have recently reset your account or had just been created, please wait an hour before trying to download the product. You can upgrade from an older version of Sage BusinessWorks on the old server to the current version on the new server. It does not have to be equal versions in order to upgrade on the new server. If upgrading from version 2012 or earlier, backup and rebuild all modules in all companies prior to upgrading. Another note is if you are changing domains while adding a new server, be sure to uninstall Sage BusinessWorks from all client computers prior to joining the new domain. Let's go ahead and take a look at a live demonstration on how to back up the existing data on the old server. There are two important steps that need to be performed at your old server prior to moving to the new server. The first step would be to find your product code, which is needed for installing on the new server. To find your product code, go to Utilities, Registration Information, Network Registration, and look at the value to the left of the OK button. In this case, our network shows as a workgroup. So therefore, when we go to install on the new server, we would enter the product code WG. If you came onto the network registration screen and it showed NT server, that would equate to your product code being CS as in Charlie Sam. Once you have your product code, you can go ahead and close out of these screens and write that product code down so that you have it when installing on your new server. It is critical that you enter the correct product code when you install on the new server, otherwise you will run into issues with your registration. If you are unsure of your product code, contact support for confirmation. Once you have the product code, you're going to use the Sage BusinessWorks backup utility to create backups of the system database and each of your company data files. It's important to make a backup of the system database prior to beginning the process of moving to the new server. Not making a system backup will result in loss of users, registration information, and custom forms. To make the backups, go to File, Backup, click Next in the Database Backup Wizard. We're going to start with backing up system, so we're going to select the system database. Again, this holds your users, registration information, and custom forms. Then we're going to go ahead and hit Next. And then we're going to choose the location of where we want the files to go to. This can be any location on the local machine, or for ease, you can back up to the network. It will be a little bit slower backing up to the network, so what I usually like to do is back up to the local machine and then copy the file over to the server. So once you've confirmed your location of your backup on the left-hand side, you're going to go ahead and hit Next, and then you're going to go ahead and hit Start to begin the backup. Please note the backup of system can take longer than a company backup. It may appear to lock it sometimes, but it will continue to progress even if it goes to not responding. Once the system backup is complete, it's going to ask you if you would like to back up another database. Go ahead and select Yes, and then select your company database and hit Next. Again, placing that backup in the same location, you're going to go ahead and hit Next, and then go ahead and hit start. And you're going to continue this process until all your companies have been backed up. Once that is complete, you can say no. It will close out of the backup, and now you are ready to begin the process of moving to the new server. To begin the install on the new server, you're going to bring up Windows Explorer. The first thing that we need to do is we're going to create a Sage folder on the drive that you would like to install Sage BusinessWorks on. In this case, we're going to use the C drive. To create a folder, you're going to right click and go New, and then choose Folder. We're going to call this folder Sage. Once the folder is created, we're going to right click on the folder, go to Properties, click the Sharing tab, go to Advanced Sharing. We're going to select Share this folder, and then here you're going to share the folder with everyone you would like to add access to. If you would like to set it for a specific user, you can click Add, type in the user ID that you would like to add, and then click OK. Then you could set access to each individual user that uses the Sage BusinessWorks program. Next, you're going to set the security permissions. In this case, we're going to use the authenticated users group, but again, you could add the individual users that are going to be using the Sage BusinessWorks program, and those users must have full control to the folder. So we're going to add and add again, and then again we're going to type in the user ID, hit enter. You're going to see that user listed. Need to ensure that they have full control, and I'm going to also in this case add authenticated users. I'm going to go ahead and hit close, and now our folder is shared and ready to be installed to. You're going to download the full product on the new server from www.sagekb.com. The instructions for this is covered in the tutorial titled How to Download Sage BusinessWorks Accounting. Once the product has been downloaded, you're going to go to the download folder. You're going to double click the Sage BusinessWorks 2020.exe. You're going to confirm the location that you're going to extract the install files to, and then click Setup. And then you're going to see the screen where we let you know that in the 2020 release, it also includes the 2020 payroll tax table update. If you have not yet printed the 2019 W-2s or payroll year-end forms, please hold off on installing this update. Once that's complete, it's okay to proceed. When you get the option, choose Install Sage BusinessWorks. You're going to click Next on the Welcome to the Setup Wizard screen, or read through and agree to the license agreement. And this is where we're talking about the product code and how important it is that you choose the correct one. In our case, the product code that we determined off the old server was WG. So we're going to type in WG. And then we're going to go ahead and hit next. And then here is where it's going to have you choose the program path and the data path. On a new install, it most likely will default to the default path, which is C Sage BW Prog. But I wanted to show you what it would look like if for some reason you were choosing a different drive or it didn't find that location. So we're going to go ahead and click Browse. And then we're going to go to this PC, and we're going to find the drive that which BusinessWorks is installed. Then we're going to see and scroll through the list until we see the folder that we created in that previous step. So we're going to choose the Sage folder, and then we need that folder to actually go to a BW Prog directory. So we're going to type in a backslash and then BW Prog. Once that's complete, you're going to hit OK and follow the same steps on the next one, except for instead of BW Prog, we're going to type BW Data. And if you're selecting the default, if you created your Sage folder and shared it on the C drive, a new install will typically pick up that path, so no typing is necessary. Just wanted to show you what it would be like as if you were choosing a different location or if it didn't pick up that path. You're going to go ahead and hit next. You're going to confirm the location in which you want to install Pervasive to. It is okay to change the drive that Pervasive is installed to. So if you would like to, if you had multiple hard drives, you could install it on a second drive instead of the primary C drive. This is a screen where you'll choose the client data path. If you see a message on here that says no writable share, that means that your Sage folder has not been shared with full control for all the users that will be using BusinessWorks. Go back to that folder and set the appropriate permissions. If you see more than one location on this screen, that would indicate that you have multiple shares on the drive or folder that BusinessWorks is installed on. Choose the most direct path going through the Sage folder as your data path. Here is where you would select and confirm the program folder, and here is where you would confirm your install settings and click Next. The install is going to first install the Pervasive Engine, and then it will install the BusinessWorks files. When the installation is complete, go ahead and hit Finish. Go ahead and exit out of the install. Go ahead and close out of Explorer. You will see a Sage BusinessWorks icon on the desktop. Double click the icon, and then when the login screen displays, go ahead and log in with Manager and no password. You will see that your product says Sage BusinessWorks 2020. And if you go to Help and About, it will confirm that you have a successful install. Now that the installation is complete on the new server, we are going to go over how to restore the backups made on the old server. The first thing we're going to do is go to File and Restore on the new server. Going to click Next. You're going to select the backups that you made on the old server. Now this may be on a network drive or it may be on a flash drive. And either location, browse to that specific location where those files reside, and then you select the files. So in this case, first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the system backup and we're going to hit Next. It's going to give you the company ID, which should be BW System 1400, and then you are going to click the Start button. If you are upgrading from an older version of the Sage BusinessWorks product, you will get this message that there's a System Manager version mismatch. Go ahead and say yes to the message and the restore will continue. That message displays because the current System Manager version is the updated version for 2020 and you're restoring a version that is an older database version. Now during the restore, there are going to be spots where it's going to appear to stall and it might give you a not responding message. That is okay and in normal. Just go ahead and let it sit and complete and the system database will be restored. And as a reminder, the system database is the database that holds your users, registration information, and custom forms. If you restored a database and then went to access that database and the modules were all grayed out, so all these icons were all grayed out, that would indicate that you had not yet restored the system backup. Go to File, select Company, select the sample database, and then go ahead and restore the system backup that was made from the old server. Once the restore is complete, you'll be prompted if you would like to restore another database. Go ahead and select yes, and then continue to choose the rest of your databases until they have all been restored. Once the last restore is complete, go ahead and say no, and then if you are upgrading from an older version of the product, the database update will appear and you can go ahead and start that database update. If you are not upgrading versions and you're just moving between two new servers, there's nothing additional you would do at this point. Now that the installation on the new server is complete, let's go ahead and take a look at what to do on the client workstation. What is important is that when you're logging into the workstation, that you be logged into the Windows user that originally did the client installation. You can go to the Windows Start button, type in Control Panel, go to Programs and Features, and then view the list of installed programs. You should see the Sage BusinessWorks-Client. If you see the Sage BusinessWorks-Profile, that indicates that this was not the user that originally did the installation. Log in as the user that shows the client and perform the instructions that are going to be following. To uninstall the Sage BusinessWorks client, click on the Windows Start button, go to Control Panel, Programs and Features, and then select the Sage BusinessWorks client. Go ahead and click uninstall. You're going to select the option to uninstall and click next, and then say yes to uninstall the Sage BusinessWorks client. Once it's complete, go ahead and click finish, and now you're ready to begin the installation part of the client. To install the client from the new server, right-click on the Windows Start button and go to File Explorer. Once here, in the address bar, type in \\\, and then the name of the server and hit enter. Once there, select the Sage folder that you created during the original install. From there, select bwprog and then select the client setup folder. Once here, select the auto run. Go ahead and click to install the Sage BusinessWorks client. Click next to continue with the install. It's going to give you a message that the correct version of Pervasive has been detected and will be skipped. Go ahead and click OK to that as well. It's going to ask you to confirm the program folder that the BusinessWorks icons will be going into, so go ahead and hit next. And then it's going to have you confirm your installation type. It's going to show client. If that shows profile or any other option, that is not the correct install to get this client set up. It's going to show you the program path and the data path to the server and where Pervasive is located on the local machine. Going to go ahead and click next, and the installation will progress. If you get prompted for an administrator user login and password, enter the Windows Network Administrator user ID and password that is the local account to your Sage BusinessWorks server. Once the installation is finished, go ahead and click the Finish button, exit out of here, close out of your client setup there, and double-click the Sage BusinessWorks product. Once you're logged in, go to Help and About, and verify that your program path and data path correctly point to the new server. One of the issues you may run into when installing the Sage BusinessWorks client is you might receive the message installation originally performed by user. Then it will indicate a user ID. This indicates that the last user that installed the client on this computer was under a different Windows profile than what you're currently logged in as. I'm going to show you the steps here today on how to resolve that issue. First, you're going to click the Windows Start button and then start typing Run. When you start typing Run, the Run app will appear. You're going to click on that. Once the Run app appears, you're going to click Browse. And once the Browse screen comes up, you're going to go again to the network path, to the Sage folder, to the bwprog folder, to the client setup folder. Then you're going to go into the Sage BusinessWorks folder and select the setup.exe. You're going to then click Open. You will see here the network path to the setup.exe file with quotes around it. After the last quote, you're going to type in /no profile, and then you're going to go ahead and hit OK. If you get an open file warning, click Run, and then the installation will continue without prompting for the message to log in as a different user. Some common issues that you may run into when moving to a new server. The first we just covered how to perform, and that's if you received the installation originally performed by a user. The resolution is to either log in as the user notated in the error or run the no profile install. Another issue you may run into is receiving the message cannot achieve an exclusive lock, or an error occurred while adding an item to the backup restore archive when attempting to back up on the old server. To resolve this, disconnect stranded users. See knowledge base article titled How to Release or Disconnect Stranded Users for further instructions. This can be found at www.sagekb.com. Another common issue is after you've restored a database, you go to access that company and the modules are grayed out and unavailable. Another way people describe that is that they cannot access a company on the new server. What you need to do is go to File, select Company, and select the sample company, and then restore the system database that was created on the old server. When installing the client, you may also receive an administrator login prompt. If you do, enter the local administrator account to the Sage BusinessWorks server, and that is going to authenticate it to Pervasive at the server. This is required one time if you are using the client-server edition of Sage BusinessWorks. Another common issue that you may run into is that you ran the install by right-clicking and choosing Run as Administrator, and then you notice there's not an icon for Sage BusinessWorks on your desktop. That is because when you run it as administrator, it installs everything under the administrator user profile. To put the icon and the program group under the current user, browse to the server Sage bwprog directory and run bwprofile.exe. Now, after installing 2020 on the new server, registration must be entered prior to attempting to install the service pack. So that means you need to restore the system database before attempting to install a service pack. If the system database is unavailable, you'll have to manually enter the registration information to register Sage BusinessWorks prior to installing the service pack. One last item you might run into is that a client is pulling data from the incorrect server, or if you go to Help and About, you'll notice the data path is showing the incorrect path. If that's the case, go into Control Panel, Programs and Features, uninstall Sage BusinessWorks, and then browse to the See Users, the user's current Windows user ID, App Data, Roaming, Sage BusinessWorks folder, and delete the bwuser.ini file. Then reinstall the Sage BusinessWorks client and it will point it directly to that new server. I want to thank you all for taking the time today to watch our mini tutorial. Have a great day.